Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and this is Patron Hangout number 200. Hard to believe. 200 means I've been here for 4 years, which I have been here. So thank you guys for hanging in with me, some of you, and some of you have gone and come back, and some of you have gone away and not come back, but I always appreciate all my patrons because it helps keep this going. So thank you here. Anyway, one thing I want to mention before I start is that I think in these comments, oh my God, Pat, are you okay? Have you burned yourself horribly in the sun? Okay. Okay, that really made me laugh. Now, I'm going to show you what the problem is. So I have been out in the sun, but I'm not actually burnt. The problem is the color, is the lights. I replaced my light, and they have a new software system, and for the life of me, I cannot make it work. So I have a new camera with a software system. I got lights with a software system, and nothing works. So I'm just going to show you what happens here, because see this thing here. So now I'm this red. Now I could go over here. I get less red. I can turn blue over here. Now I look like I passed away. And then I can get very green over here. That looks pretty sickening. So, and I can't seem to get it right because of my skin is a little bit redder than normal. It's being picked up by the camera, and then I just can't seem to make it work. And then on top of that, my hair changes colors. I go from dark to what's if a certain puts on, I turn totally gray, and it's supposed to be. I have actually. This is blonde hair, believe it or not, but it's just not working. I mean, it's fake blonde, but it's not working well. So that's why I look a little weird right now, because I can't figure out the stupid system, how to get the best color I can get without looking totally ridiculous. I'm going to leave it here. I do look like a freaking ham. I mean, I have a little, I do have a little, but I'm not really burnt. I've been using stuff, and it's just a mild pink or a mild tan. It's really not what you're seeing. So yeah. So that's why I always tell people, when you look at people on camera, depending on the filters and the lights and everything, they can look so different from day to day. And now I look like a ham today. So I've been using that, Sarah. And I have been, and I've been going to the pool. I don't stay long. I go there. I sit out for 15 minutes in order to want to get in the pool. Then I swim for 15 minutes during adult time, because I don't want to be with all splashy kitties. And then I jump out, dry off, and go home. So I'm there less than an hour, usually 45 minutes. I tan very well. I don't burn. I tan, but you can't tell here. Oh my God. Hi, Joanna. Wait a minute. Sarah's laughing at me. I don't want to get done. Hi, Pat, and everyone. Glad to be here. I always manage to miss them. Well, you have a life, and that's a good thing. So cameras add 10 pounds. I don't know. I added 50 pounds of myself, so I can't blame the camera, Actually, yeah. Now I'm 40 pounds up. I lost 10. But taking photos of jewelry, it's not easy. Yeah. It's just, as you know. So anyway, I'm going to be this color for this show. Hopefully I'll figure it out, but it worked so beautifully before, and then they changed the software on me, and I'm like, so anyway, I can complain all I want about that. It's very, very frustrating. Yes, you want to ask about the cat. Here he is. Just this is what he does when he comes in my room. He looks away from me and sometimes he grooms just to pretend I'm actually not there, and so he always pretends I'm not there. So he sits there and waits for me to get out of bed and feed him, but he's pretending I don't exist. And this is, after I feed him off my hand, I put this little row of food out. And the reason I've done this is that I'm trying to move the food closer and closer to his face with my hand, so that he gets used to my hand being near his face without hissing at me. And he is getting better. I've gotten closer now without so, and then he sits in my lap and eats his food, and then he leaves. So that's Mac. He is doing okay. Using me for what he uses me for. Yeah, exactly. Pretty much. I mean, and when he does look at me, he doesn't look at me with a happy look. I mean, because he's got that, yeah, it's kind of a evil glare in his eye. It's like, like he thinks of me as his enemy. Yet he'll sit near me. So go figure. So what kind of men are you attracted to? That question is triggered by your domestication of a feral cat. Oh, I don't have that much patience with men. Nah. My cats stare at me all the time. Yeah, my regular cats did. My house pet cats that were, they were regular pets. They love to stare at me. They love me. All the normal things that cats do, like meow. But when Mac comes into the room, he sits there, and if I'm turned over and we're doing something on my iPad, looking at whatever, and I don't see him come in, he will never meow because he's feral. He will not meow and let me know he's there. So sometimes he gets, I think, kind of annoyed. Sometimes he'll get up and go toward where I have the food put in the bag, and he'll just look like if I glance over, it'll look like he was trying to get into it because I didn't get out of bed. But it's interesting. The channel mascot. Yeah, there you go. I think he is. Okay. Now, I've got a bunch of UK things to do in just a bit, but because of the recent news, I want to add a couple more comments. And the recent news, oh, by the way, if you haven't been to if you're new to the channel, I never do these things properly. If you're new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. And if you want to be in the chat room with these wonderful people, please do click the link below and join Patreon. I have 2 live shows a week. They're for patrons only. And it's great to have this group. And then once the show is over, usually about a week later, I post it for everybody. So all of my shows are public. So if you do subscribe to the channel, you're not going to miss anything. But you won't be able to be in the live part, except rare occasions when I do something public. But yeah. And my other channel right now is there's a Dear Profiler Pat. And I answer questions. And it's kind of like Dear Abby, only hopefully a little bit more in depth. And a little more profiler-like. So that's that. But then I did a thing on Bryan Kohberger because he has taken a plea deal, and pretty much people are not totally unhappy with that. I point out that during the show that some people were not pleased with that. They wanted to go to trial, and some people were like, good, it's just as well. But the comments, I have gotten some of the comments on the on YouTube. The one interesting one that's different from during the show was that some people feel that even though he pleaded guilty, the case has not been proven. So you have these diehard, I think Bryan Kohberger is not innocent, or maybe he's being railroaded by the government and he's been forced into this. So you get these people, and what's frustrating again is that this is a case which, quite frankly, the evidence is solid. I mean, I have a couple cases I've done where a person's taken a plea deal, and I didn't think they did it. And I'm trying to remember offhand which ones they were, but I felt that the evidence was so weak, and the guy was like not altogether home, and I didn't think the evidence pointed toward that person. But they were a little crazy, and they confessed, and you do get false confessions. I don't think this is a false confession. It is not. There is solid evidence. Even without his confession, I believe he should be found guilty in a court of law. But for whatever reasons, and I don't have the answer to why he didn't want to go to court, because that's quite unusual. It certainly isn't to spare the families. You could say it's to spare his family, but if he's a psychopath, he probably doesn't care about his own family either. So why is he doing it? I honestly do not have an answer. Maybe he's afraid of the death penalty. Maybe he actually says there's so much, because he killed 4 young people brutally. This guy is not liked. You know what I mean? And maybe he thinks that the evidence, because there also is DNA evidence at the scene that matches him, that the evidence is too strong, that he will probably never win on an appeal either. Maybe they'll just go forth with that death penalty. And maybe he doesn't want to be on death row, as opposed to regular stuff. I don't know. We'll never know. And people will say, well, also, there was no motive given. People are upset about that. Well, he should have had to give his motive. He's a psychopath. You can't believe anything he says. So don't waste your time. Just do not waste your time. He is what he is. And thank God he'll be in prison the rest of his life. So, yeah, for that horrible crime. He feels ashamed. It's an interesting concept. Thought he would like the attention, but maybe because of the mistake of leaving the DNA, he feels ashamed. That is actually not a bad theory. And I'll tell you why I think you might have a theory here that's reasonable, which I had not thought of, by the way. So congratulations for coming up with one I didn't. He would not feel shame in general. He would not be ashamed that he committed the homicide. He'd feel pride over that because that's the thing he thought was cool. But you point out, he might have thought he was so freaking smart that there would be no way he would not get away with this. He probably planned to commit this because he was in criminal justice program, which, by the way, a lot of psychopaths love criminal justice. Serial killers like criminal justice. But he actually had gotten quite a ways in his studies, not just community college, but further on. So that he would think he was so smart, he's going to commit this perfect crime, kill these people, and then get away with it, and then sit back and smirk like that picture he took afterwards, which was the sick little smile he had. And maybe is actually embarrassed in his own mind, not necessarily cares about what other people think, but in his own mind. So he screwed it up so badly that, yeah, he's not ashamed, but I would say embarrassed that he wasn't as smart as he thought he was. He embarrassed that he blew it. That I think is possible. So, but it's all about him and how he feels in his head, because he doesn't really care about other people. But if he's mocked in public, that might be annoying for him. So I like that one. That one's good. Yeah. Avoid the ego injury. Doesn't want to be seen as a failure. That might very well be it. I think that is the best thought. And I hadn't had it. I was just kind of so interesting. Oh yes, Martinez point. Yes, the bathroom selfie afterwards. He was so proud of it, but they must have realized he dropped the sheath already at that time. You would think so. He almost ordered a new sheath. I tell you, it wasn't too bright. How dare they serve us trash? Oh, that was awful of them. Yes. So anyway, I do that was a great point, and so I'm going to leave it at that because I think that's about all I want to say about Kohberger. But I personally am happy that they don't have to go through a horrifying trial, and the jury doesn't have to look at horrifying photos of these young people and haha YouTubers who are grifters because you just lost 50 to 100 shows overnight. It's like, well, you were gonna milk the crap out of this trial, and now you can't. What a shame. Anyway, the other thing I want to talk about is Diddy. I did a thing on Diddy, the verdict that came out on Diddy, and I want to say two things on this, which I didn't say in my thing, but I saw some information come up afterwards, and I thought it was very interesting. One was, I had talked about why I did think I thought the jury got it right, which again, I'm not for the jury system just because one jury gets it right. I still think it's a crapshoot. Got lucky this time that they happened to agree with me. But I believed he would only get the sex trafficking, the transporting, the Mann Act charge, because I felt the rest of the case was very weak. And some people get very angry about that, and they go like, well, he should be put away. Well, if you can't stand the guy, I think he's slime, has nothing to do with the law, unfortunately. So it said here, this was just came out on CNN, and the person who was talking about this here was, the assistant U.S. attorney Emily Johnson told the jurors during the opening statements that there was another side to Sean Combs and a side that ran a criminal enterprise. That's what she was trying. They were trying to get the RICO thing on him, criminal enterprise. Now, and the jury didn't go with it, which is interesting because that's a real hard concept actually to understand. But what actually happened? In the Combs case, prosecutors claimed he and members of his inner circle had engaged in crimes involving kidnapping, arson, forced labor, bribery, and sex trafficking, among others. For a conviction, jurors would have to needed to find that Combs and at least one other person agreed to commit at least 2 relevant acts within a 10-year window. Now, that seems like a very small thing to have to live up to. But the jurors never heard any direct testimony from many of the people who allegedly were part of this enterprise. And legal experts and myself say the prosecution may have overcharged, which they did, and wasted a massive amount of money. As somebody pointed out, this is the most expensive prostitution case ever. Now, this the CNN, the senior legal analyst Ellie Honig, she said she thought the racketeering charge was an overcharge from the start. Absolutely. If you try to show racketeering as a prosecutor, you have to show where there is an organized criminal enterprise, that there was some structure to this. And I like the point about the structure, that there was a criminal operation that was ongoing and committed multiple crimes. They just didn't have the proof. Why? Because this wasn't like the cartel or the mafia. This wasn't any kind of structured thing where they were planning to commit these criminal crimes. And it wasn't that. It was Diddy and a bunch of guys or people. He's going, hey, do this. Can you pick this up for me? I mean, bad behavior, maybe some of it not legal, but there was no great structure to the old freak off things and drug using stuff. So, and then she said this, could they prove Sean Combs was a horrible human being, physically abusive, and engaged in domestic violence? Yes. And yes and yes. And as a matter of fact, I kept looking at the trial going, what the heck? All they keep doing is claiming that he was physically abusive. There was domestic violence. He was a horrible human being, over and over and over again. What's your point? We know that. What's your point is, what crime did he commit? That is a crime you've charged him with, that then you have some evidence. And as she points out then, but none of those are racketeering. And that is correct. And that's why it didn't work. The other thing was about sex trafficking. Now, the Mann Act is transporting someone for the purposes of prostitution, but sex trafficking is a whole different thing. They charged him with 2 counts of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. One related to his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. The other related to an ex-girlfriend who testified under a pseudonym, Jane, which she should not have been allowed to do. She should have had to use her real name. If you're going to go to a court and accuse somebody of something, you're not a child. At the end of the day, Cruz Menendez, who was that? Oh, that's another prosecutor. At the end of the day, she says, the jury had to be convinced that coercion was happening within the dynamic of the relationship. But the defense argued the women wanted to spend time with Combs because they loved him, and their presence at the freak-offs or hotel nights was not due to violence or fraud. In addition, both women had long-term relationships with Combs, which is unconventional for sex trafficking. When you look at sex trafficking, you're looking not at a long-term relationship of like 11 years, which is Cassie Ventura, or 3 years as it related to Jane. So, and I like this last statement that this guy made. This was during the cross-examination. These were individuals who had been in long-standing relationships with Combs. So there was a thin line between consent and coercion, a thin line that, of course, the defense exploited very effectively. Yes, they did, because that thin line is hard to prove. When you are an adult and you make choices just because you feel obligated, or because you want to stay with somebody, or because whatever reasons you've got, you want to be famous, you want their money, whatever it is. And many relationships, including marriage, that thin line is always there. Why does a wife sometimes have sex with her husband when she's not in the mood? Because she wants him to be happy, because she doesn't want him to be, she doesn't want to go cheat on her. She whatever. She was planning to ask him to go on vacation. She wants him in a good mood, whatever. She thinks it's her marital duty at least to give him twice a week, or whatever it is. Is that coercion? Is that manipulation? That kind of thing. Well, there's always these things back and forth, but unless it's absolute assault, it's not a crime. And so that's what you have in this whole Diddy case, is you got women who chose to be with him, and they had every opportunity to leave over and over and over and over again, or to say no, and they didn't. And so where's the proof that, you know, they were absolutely forced into it, and that there wasn't enough? And this lady said some things, and so what? That they say those things does not amount to proof. And second thing I want to talk about, and then I'll go to some of your comments. The second thing, I just thought this commentary was interesting. This, I believe all women. Let me see. Whoops, I just moved it. Hold on a second. This was, they were talking about Diddy and all his stuff that he did, and they got some woman on the street as part of their thing. But anyway, hey, what do you think? Anyway, she said this. She was disheartened by the verdict. Her name is Denver Williams, by the way. She said, I believe all the women. I always will believe all the victims. I wouldn't know how to feel if I was one of those victims and didn't, weren't believed. I believe all women. Now, I'd like to go to Denver and say, so if your ex-husband and you were in a custody battle and his new girlfriend went in court and said you were abusive to the children, she saw you beat the children, she saw you neglect the children, those children shouldn't be with you because you're a horrible mother. Should the court believe her? Should every woman believe her because a woman said it? What about if your son has just gotten a scholarship to college, on a football scholarship or something? You're so excited. He's opened up a whole new possibility of, success in his life. And then a woman goes to the police station. She says, we went on a date and he raped me. Should she be absolutely believed? Throw him out of college, take away his scholarship, put him in jail? It's your son. Do you believe that woman? Oh, suddenly, no. Okay, so you can choose when you want to believe women, when it's convenient for you, when you don't like, let's say, you don't like Diddy, so therefore all the women who say things against him must be telling the truth. Or you don't like a political figure, so the women saying something against political figure must be telling the truth. Whatever, and vice versa. There's men who, should they all be believed? And of course not either. What about children? I used to tell my husband when he was a soccer coach. Well, we talked about this. Actually, I didn't tell him. I take that back. I didn't tell him. We actually talked about it. I think he might have told me because he was more paranoid than I was, and he was right. He said, I want to make sure I'm never alone with any of the soccer kids because I don't want anybody to think I ever did anything to them. So he never did. He was never alone with them. Smart move. Because guess what? Can't believe all kids either. And that's the problem. You can either believe people without evidence, or you can believe evidence. The justice system says you should believe evidence, not just people. And we all know how, often it's talked about with witnesses, how often witnesses are completely wrong. So why are they wrong? It's because they thought they saw something. It's because some of them are lying. So you have to make sure that the witnesses can be useful in focusing on a certain direction, looking for more evidence and all that kind of stuff. But you really, in the long run, it's the evidence that's extremely important. So focus on evidence, and you just don't believe people for the sake of believing them. Even if maybe they are telling the truth, but still, where's the evidence? And that's why this jury, I think, got it right. They thought there wasn't much evidence except for the man thing, where prostitutes were brought across state lines. So that's what they got them on. Okay, I'm going to your comments on this. You're late to the show, Christoph. No, I'm having. You're late because I did a whole thing on the problem I'm having with the lighting. So I was told I look like a ham. So I'm not really this burnt. I'm just having problems with the lighting situation. And that is true, Joanna. Sometimes there is no rape. And guess what? If there's no evidence that the rape occurred, the person cannot be prosecuted just because you wish they could be. Because if you're going to say we can prosecute people for rape when we have no evidence, what is that actually saying? That we don't care about evidence, that anybody can claim rape and then that person goes off to jail for the next, See, that's the problem. We can't do it even if there's no evidence. Evidence is a requirement. That's the justice system. You can believe whatever you want. Like, for example, let's say my best friend came to me, who I trust, who's never lied to me, and she tells me she was raped by this guy, John Smith. John Smith raped her. She tells me the story, crying and all that stuff. And I trust her because she's never lied. But she says she can't prove it, and the police will not file charges. Well, I have the right to choose to believe her. And I may never want to be around John Smith again. Let's say I knew John Smith in passing, or maybe he was whatever. And I may just not want to be around John Smith anymore. Why? Because John Smith, I believe my friend. She says you sexually assaulted her, and I believe her. That doesn't mean you can put him in jail. But I can choose to believe. But that's a whole different matter. So anybody can sue and win. Believe me. That again, it's a lot. A lot again is like suing people. You need way less evidence. And you get another, I don't know if that was another jury thing. And you get juries who feel sorry for somebody and they just give them the money. I mean, it doesn't mean it's proven. It's not proven in a legal court of law. It's proven in a civil court. Proven. So again, I don't personally see that there was evidence. I think there was evidence that she was beaten by him that was on film. Yeah. She was assaulted. He should have been gone away for that. But apparently, I can't remember what happened. Did she not report it? And then they hid the guy. He paid off the guy not to keep the video. So I mean, I personally, I don't feel sorry for her. I don't. Cassie made her choices. She chose to be with him for fame and money. That's her choice. If she wanted to prostitute herself in that way and do all the things you wanted because she wanted that, I'm sorry, I just don't have that. And she was with him all those years. She had every right to leave him and not deal with him. So I'm sorry. I don't think she deserves to be given money. I personally don't. I think she got what she got while she was there, and he got what he got. So I just don't have that great sympathy for her. I don't. Now her being beaten, that I think she should have reported that immediately to the police, and because that was an assault, and she should never ever have been with him ever again. Do you really think if someone says they're raped, they're just as likely to be lying or telling the truth? It's not reporting rape gets you covered in glory. You have obviously never been in this kind of line of work. Yes, women do claim rape when they haven't been raped. Men do too, especially when it comes down to famous people. They will claim it in a heartbeat. A lot of times it's consensual sex that they either regret later, didn't get what they wanted, like they didn't get put in a movie or something. They didn't get the job they wanted or whatever. Or they're just embarrassed they did it. Or they say, oh my God, I did do that, but now everybody's suing him, or how he's going to, I'll jump in on this. And in today's world, admitting you were raped seems to be a badge of honor. I hate to say it, but I think it's got to that point. Well, women are coming out all over the internet and, airing what you want to call dirty laundry once upon a time. All kinds of stuff they should keep. We don't need to know. But they're willing to tell it because then people come and say, oh my God, you went through all of that. Oh my God, you poor dear. This is a way to get massive attention these days. So I believe a lot of women will do that. Sorry, and again, men too. And when it comes down to the police, when they have somebody come in and say this occurred, there are times when it is simply not true. And I've been around that stuff, and I know when it's not been true. And the rape claims are for anything. I didn't like I got mad at him. I'm embarrassed I had sex with him. I came home late and my parents said, where have you been? And I had to make up a story. I want attention. I'm Munchausen's. Yes. So because of this, Again, you can feel whatever you want to feel, but in a court of law, it should depend on evidence. Period. I mean, there's just, if we decide we don't need evidence in a court of law, well, we have a problem. It's not a justice system. And a lot of times I have seen pretty awful decisions made by those juries, and especially in the civil stuff. A lot of people just feel sorry for the person. They'll want to, if somebody's got, if the organization has a lot of money and this person doesn't, and they tell a sob story, they'll say, yeah, chuck a bunch of money at them. Or famous person, person supposedly was abused by the famous person, chuck a lot of money at them. They really don't care. It's not their money, and they figure the person's rich anyway, so you feel bad for them. But feeling bad is different than having evidence, and I'll stand by that. That's just in my opinion, a requirement. But yeah. So anyway, let me go on to so a couple things out of England, which I thought were fascinating. One is the Annie McCarrick. Oh no, sorry, this one's Ireland. Annie McCarrick. I did talk about her recently, and they arrested a guy. And what's interesting about this is whether they arrested the guy but didn't keep him. So let me find the thing on it. Okay. So they arrest this guy, and they did a search, and came up with nothing, kind of like the Madeleine McCann search. Only this guy seems like he might be guilty, right? Cold case team drew a blank after diggers were brought to tear up a garden in a hunt for a missing American student. Now, oh crap. Now I've got an article that's locked. They searched for her remains in a suburban Dublin home, and they didn't come up with any evidence. A former friend of Ms. McCarrick's, the man had been a person of interest in her case since she disappeared in March 1993, and they locked the rest of this. So hold on a second. Let me see if I can pull up another version. There are more and more sites that are now. What's going on here? Great. My keyboard's dead. Okay. They are now blocking. You have to get the subscription, and it's happening to so many of them now. It's like you can't possibly get subscriptions to all these things. So it's very difficult. Okay. Let's go for BBC. All right. BBC hasn't locked in yet. Okay. He was a man in his 60s, and he was arrested in connection with her disappearance and murder 30 years ago. She was 26, and he was, I guess, in his 30s at the time, right? He was, I guess, he's quite a wealthy person now. That they arrested him, and then they let him go after 24 hours, and then they dug up a garden, came up with nothing. So, will he be? Anything will happen with this case? People say, "Oh my God, see, now they got him. They got him." But do they have him? That's Irish Times too. I can't do that one either. Let's see. I gotta not go to the Irish Times. They found no evidence of value, so therefore, yeah, they're remaining on site to restore their garden to its original condition. That's interesting. Okay. The man was subsequently released without charge, and then at one point they used a cadaver dog. For three weeks they did this and came up with, unfortunately, nothing. Both brothers, he and his brother, denied any involvement, and the arrested man's brother claimed he too was unfairly considered a suspect and maintained their innocence. My brother and I have nothing to do with Annie's disappearance. He assured us he had a watertight alibi regarding his own whereabouts and affirmed that his sibling is similarly uninvolved in Annie's absence. So, yeah, he was a suspect for 32 years, which is fine, but he didn't do anything in the next 32 years to pin on him, so there's nothing to pin. Everything they looked at was rubbish, blah, blah, blah. So she was seeing this guy, and she was breaking it off with him, and disappeared. So people think it's the guy. But, if you believe that it's the guy, he should be arrested and charged and convicted because you believe it. You see how that works? You can't do that. You have to have a thing called evidence, which is why they're looking for her body and they didn't find it. So, yeah. And then there was this other guy who did get convicted after he's 92 years old, which is just a bizarre thing. And then this guy here, his name is Ryland Headley, and he murdered Louise Dunne at her home in 1967. So that's very unusual. And of course, we know it has to be DNA, right? Which it is. It's a DNA case, which is why it's a good idea not to throw stuff away. But the problem back in the day, and people say, why isn't it done with every case? It's because sometimes back in the day, they saw no reason to keep something because they didn't have DNA anyway. They thought they'd already done everything they thought they could do. They didn't have any idea that DNA was going to be so useful all those years later. But this guy, that's interesting when you say, okay, they found his DNA, but can we believe that the DNA matching him proves he did it? Because this poor guy's 92, right? All right. A 92-year-old man has been jailed for life, which is kind of funny. It's like, what is that, 6 months? For the rape and murder of a woman in a case that took 58 years to solve. He was 34 when he strangled 75-year-old widow Louisa Dunne at her home in Easton, Bristol on 20th of June, 1967. She was found lying on her floor by the neighbor, and she had died from asphyxia. And it says at the time of her death, she was living alone. Now, who's Mr. Sweeting? Hold on a second. Let me find out who the guy this was. The judge, Mr. Sweeting, told the court that Headley had planned to rape Mrs. Dunne when he broke into her home and brutally attacked her. And so anyway, she was a small elderly woman, and he killed her and raped her and so on and so forth. However, let's see. Where's the information? Okay. The case, sorry, something popped up. All right. How did they get the DNA? They assessed the evidence archives in 2023 and found the skirt Mrs. Dunne was wearing at the time of the attack. So they kept her skirt. After it was sent for forensic testing, a full DNA profile was obtained, and that's a full DNA profile, and indicated a 1,000,000,000-to-1 match to Headley. 1,000,000,000 is pretty damn good. Now, the thing that is to me, makes me very happy. And they didn't say, I don't know what the DNA was that they got this full thing. So I'm assuming, I don't know what they had on I don't know if it was semen or what they had on the skirt. They don't say. Touch DNA would have been questionable because, again, touch DNA doesn't mean you necessarily killed the person. Semen on a skirt of a raped woman, pretty much, unless, which is possible, that he went over there because they're both old. Oh no, let's see, he wasn't old at that time. Oh, so the young guy goes over there and he has sex with the older lady and leaves semen, and then he goes out and some guy comes in and kills her. That can happen. But that's the nice part about this case is it says here, the 92-year-old was previously convicted of 2 counts of rape in October 1977, where he attacked 2 lone elderly women after breaking into their homes overnight, similar to the attack on Mrs. Dunne. So I'm going to say he's a serial killer, a serial rapist, serial killer. Well, he killed her, so he turns into a serial killer. So there's no question in my mind that this is the right guy. So that extra bit of information does manage to, wrap it up quite nicely. Yeah, he had a type. It's interesting that when elderly women, and now that I'm supposedly elderly, it's always annoying. And why does a younger person pick a quote elderly person that could be their grandmother? Why? And there's a couple reasons. One is because they consider the elderly person weaker and easier to control. And a few rapists have found out that's not true when they got beat soundly by the woman who they thought was like incapacitated or she wouldn't have any strength, and she picked up her cane and whacked the crap out of the guy. My mother-in-law used to sleep with a barbell under her pillow, and she was a Jamaican woman who did farm work at one time, and she had arms of steel. And I believe she would beat some guy to death with that barbell. He would be surprised, wouldn't he? So sometimes it didn't work out well. There was one woman, I can't remember the case, but she beat this guy, and she beat him and kept beating him until he begged her to stop. And she was able to get the police there while he was still there. It was amazing. So, and she was in her, I think, 80s at the time. So yeah, that's one reason. The other reason is they don't have a car. So it's somebody in the neighborhood that's real close by, and they can sneak in. So, and a lot of times it's often teenagers, more than 30-year-olds that choose an elderly person because they're both close by and they can go there and get back home quickly. And they think they're easier to hurt and control. So, yeah. So, what led them to open the cold case? I have no idea. Maybe they were just going through stuff. It doesn't really say. Every once in a while, let's see. So case is a demonstration of the commitment of the CPS and our partners to relentlessly pursue justice for the victims of crime, no matter how many years have passed. So the same thing is true in the U.S. What makes one crime them do something? Now, if you have a cold case team, what they'll often do is they'll go through the different crimes that, and specifically look for physical evidence that might have DNA. So a lot of times when you have a cold case solved, sometimes they come out, and, oh, look, the police have, done this incredible investigative job. No, they didn't. They just found a piece of something and tested it and had DNA on it and solved the case. So most cold cases are solved that way. A few are solved with deathbed confessions. There's a few are solved in a more unique way, which is always astounding when it is. I mean, that there was some detective who just wouldn't let it go, and he just really worked on it for like decades and solved it. But you have to have enough. Again, we talk about evidence. You can know who did it. I have cases where I know who did it. I believe 100% that person did it, or at least 99%. But I know there's not enough evidence to take them to court. It sucks. It sucks when I've spent my time working on a case and I've identified a person who I believe killed the person, and it just goes nowhere. Because a lot of times when I came in as a profiler, it was a cold case. And if there wasn't DNA evidence or some other kind of physical evidence that would really stand up in court, the circumstantial stuff a lot of times doesn't work, especially 10 years down the line. So very frustrating. But so most of them are solved by DNA. But hey, any way you can solve it's good with me. It's like, use what you got. Well, that is true. Most don't give deathbed confessions. They're rare. Occasionally somebody will give a lying deathbed confession. They didn't even do it. So yeah. Let's see. And then so we got him. Oh, and I was asked to mention a thing about the murder of James Bulger, which is a famous case. But the question is, well, there's two questions. One is these were the 10-year-olds that kidnapped him, the little boy, and tortured him, and they believe sexually assaulted him and then beat him to death. And I won't go into the gruesome parts of that. However, two issues here is first of all, the age of the two youngsters who were involved. It's one of the most unbelievable cases because of their age and because there's no question they committed the crime. The evidence was overwhelming. So it wasn't like, oh, you just, pick those two kids out. No, I mean, no, they took them right away from the parent. The mom was standing there, let go of her child's hand. They took them away, took them out, took them like 2.5 miles someplace, and then took them to some area of a train track and tortured him and beat him and then killed him and then put his body on the train track to be run over by a train, which it was. But luckily the autopsy figured out that the train wasn't what killed him. They're just 10, and they did all of that. As I pointed out, psychopathy can be done. You can be a psychopath by 5. And then what happens to you when you're already a psychopath? Not every psychopath becomes violent. So what happens is a psychopath doesn't feels like the game that other people play he's not good at, and he doesn't like losing. So he develops his own game, his own rules, and it depends how he wants to play that out. A lot of it depends where he lives, what kind of people he has around him, what kind of education he has, what kind of things interest him. Does violence interest him, or just making money interest him, or just, who knows, whatever it is that interests him as he goes through his life, and what he's willing to do, not because he cares about other people, but he cares about himself, and he doesn't want to get caught for certain things. So they can go all different directions. Why would two 10-year-old boys decide to torture a little boy to death? What kind of, they're 10. It's hard to imagine. But I would say there is this level of psychopathy with both of them. Well, what's interesting is what happened after they got out, because they only spent 8 years in prison, or juvenile detention, not even prison. And they got when they got to be adults, they got to have a name change so that they couldn't be identified, so they could live a normal life after which is scary as hell. I just can't imagine, dating somebody like this and then thinking I'm going to marry them, and not realizing that they were one of these two boys that tortured a little 2-year-old to death. I mean, I would be pissed that the government kept that information from me. But that's what they did. At any rate, now, the thing about, are they psychopaths or not? It says here that you got Thompson. Thompson is on the right, and John Venables is on the left. Now, Robert Thompson, they thought he was definitely a psychopath. Let's see. Let me find out where this is here. Hold on a second. Was it over here? Oh, okay. Read this. Early reports about prison life. They both passed did some school. That's nice. The paper also stated that Bulger's family lawyers had consulted psychiatric experts in order to present the parole panel with a report that suggested Thompson is an undiagnosed psychopath, citing his lack of remorse during his trial and arrest. The report was ultimately dismissed. Thompson's lack of remorse at the time, in stark contrast to Venables, led to considerable scrutiny from the parole panel. So, interesting enough, Thompson didn't have any reaction, had no remorse, no empathy, nothing. So they believed he was a psychopath. He was the one that was the leader. So I think they are correct. He's a psychopath, but supposedly he has never committed a crime since. So, that they know of, at least, or he's used his psychopathy in other ways. But Venables, on the other hand, has done not so well. He has been, let's see if I can find it. Oh, yes. So in 2001, they were released with new identities. And Venables was jailed in 2010 for having child abuse images on his computer. And he was also imprisoned earlier this year for the same offense. So let's see. 2010, he was in prison for child abuse stuff, and then 8 years later, he was put in prison again. Which I'm kind of fascinated I don't know how short a sentence he got, but obviously he's not rehabilitated, and obviously he is still a psychopath. But the one they thought wasn't a psychopath because he supposedly showed remorse is out there, with child abuse porn more than once. And of course, on top of the fact that you can't do that, it's illegal. He knows that he cannot screw up or he goes back to prison, and yet he did screw up. So it's very hard to tell when people are psychopathic, when they get out, who's going to reoffend. I mean, it's just, you cannot, you're rolling the dice when they get out of prison. Now, sometimes you have no choice. They have to be let out of prison. You can't do anything about it. But you're still rolling the dice. It may be that he just hasn't been caught. It's possible. Or I say he had that thrill there, but he's got a different way of getting his thrills. Not sure. So, what? I said 1 p.m. and not 12 p.m. Did I screw that up? Always look at the Eastern time, my time, and look at your own clock. You know you're 3 hours behind, right? Sorry about that. It would be 12. If I typed it wrong, sometimes I sent an error in typing. But you should know your own time zone is 3 hours behind in Pacific. Sorry about that. But so these yeah, it's real tricky when you let people out of prison, and what will they do next? Let's see what I was going to talk about next. Noah Presgrove will come to the U.S. now. Noah, where are you, Noah? There you are, Noah Presgrove. Which I have done a video on him, on whether I think he was hit by a truck or whether he was killed by his friends. That's what Noah. Let me find it. Hold on. Here we go. All right. So now there is a civil suit, and sometimes what people do a civil. Oh, hold on. Okay. Sometimes people do a civil suit for a number of reasons. One is because they think if they can get them into court, they'll have to answer questions, and then they might get the answers that they want. Some people will avoid. I always felt the McCanns. They when the McCanns got my book taken off the market, and the Madeleine McCann case, the parents of Madeleine McCann, they went to Amazon and threatened them with a libel lawsuit, and Amazon pulled the book. But people ask me, why didn't they come after you personally? Well, I'm just thinking they'd have to come to American court, and I would put them on the stand. That's what I would do, and I would probably represent myself because, and I would, unless somebody really wanted to help me for reasonable, like free, and but I have lots of questions and I know how to ask them, so I would like those answers. I put them on the stand. So maybe they just don't want to bother with me. It's better just let Pat Brown just slither off, in their opinion. And they've taken her book away, and she can't make much money off of it now, which is true because once it's off of Amazon, it's a self-pub because you can't get publishers to go along with you. Anybody publishing a book that is not for the abduction theory. So Amazon is the only place to make money off of a book. And once it goes off of there, it can be an Apple. What the book is still, it's in Barnes & Noble, it's at Apple, it's Smashwords. But I make very little money on it because it just had the amount of business they get and compared to Amazon is tiny, tiny. And of course, my main reason wasn't for any money. It was for getting the information out there. And they didn't like that. They were more interested in me stopping the information from getting out. Obviously that's the reason they did it, because they didn't even bother with the others. They just let those go. But now I do have, my audio version on YouTube. So that's here. People can either read the book or they can watch the audio version. If I can remember to link it below, I will. But sometimes getting somebody into court, you can get answers from them. Is this what this family's trying to do? Now, if you don't know what this case is, I'm just going to tell you the basics. The new lawsuit, anyway, explosive new lawsuit, a Hail Mary, supposedly, filed 2 years after his death. Noah Presgrove's family is claiming that he was beaten to death by some of his friends during a party weekend. Shortly after, the 19-year-old's naked body was found on the side of the highway in Oklahoma. State police have said they don't believe Noah was murdered, but haven't commented on what led to his death, September 4th, 2023. So they're seeking only $75,000 in damages. It does not provide evidence in support of the accusations. The attorney representing Noah's family insists they have more information they can share at this stage. Oklahoma State Police said they'll continue to investigate, but declined to provide an update in light of the new suit. No one has been arrested or charged in the case, which has stoked widespread discussion on social media, and those named in the complaint deny wrongdoing. The teen's body was found on the side of the road after he disappeared from a multi-day party. He sustained fatal blunt force injuries on his skull and on his spine, though it's still not clear how. He was also drunk. His undamaged clothes were found not far from his body, and that the undamaged clothes is an interesting thing. Some say folded clothes, or undamaged. And I go into the issue during the video, which I'll try to remember to link below. It says here, and their claim is that he was not hit by a vehicle. That's their claim. And so this Jack Newton is Noah's best friend. He was accused of providing an all-terrain vehicle that Noah rode on and wrecked during the party. And he says, I haven't been able to find one thing in the lawsuit that has any truth to it. I don't know where this information is coming from. And Caleb, that's Jack's father. Oh, yeah. So everybody is saying, finally progress, finally progress. It's a huge waste of everybody's time and emotions. He says the allegations are simply not true. And my analysis was he was not beaten by the people at the party. And I do believe that he did get hit by a vehicle. But it is definitely YouTube fodder. People have put hundreds of videos out on their channels and keep going over and over it. The police do not find for homicide. And when they say they're going to keep investigating, the problem is sometimes in vehicular crimes, and I think we see this with the Karen Reed case as well, vehicular crimes, people want it to be an exact certain way. And it all depends what hit you, how you were hit, there's all kinds of things that can play into injuries that you see on the person after it occurs. And it can be and if you don't have the vehicle at all, now at least in the Reed case, it was a vehicle, but that was claimed to be the vehicle. All right. And in the case of Presgrove, if he was hit by a vehicle, nobody stopped. And the vehicle was most likely a large, a truck, big Mack truck. Know why they didn't stop? It could be because they didn't know they hit him. It's possible. Yeah, I think that's probably the most likely scenario. They just didn't even know they hit him. It was night. So, but I did not find any evidence that he was beaten to death, and none of it the claims made no sense to me as far as, just didn't make sense. It just doesn't. So, but check my video out if you want more on that. But what will this lawsuit do? I don't know. Maybe they just want to, since the police aren't going to file charges against anybody, they're believing if they can get these people into court, they can get some, because they're not asking for a lot of money. So I think they just want answers, and they think maybe if they can get them on the stand and they have to answer, that they will. Somebody will say something. I think that is their Hail Mary, because family wants to believe, or does believe, that their son was murdered. And as I point out oftentimes, this is very common for accidents. When somebody takes their life, a lot of times the family will say they were murdered. And occasionally it's true, but most of the time it is not. I just did, what's his name now? I'm blanking on his last name, Tehran. I just did a video on Tehran. Was it Tehran Evans? Blanking on his last name. Not Tehran Evans. Tehran Evans, I just did a video on that. Mother asked me to look over her son's case. He supposedly overdosed on drugs and medication, not drugs, but medication. And she believes he was murdered. And I looked at it and I saw absolutely zero evidence that pointed to murder at all. I mean, it was pretty obvious to me that there was no murder. But she's still out there, after she got it, she never said anything. She never even said to me that she even received the equivocal death analysis, of which basically I did, or profile of it. Never even responded back, even though I asked her a couple times. But she's still out there marching, marching and saying he was murdered, he was murdered, he was murdered. Still on the Facebook page, and she will probably continue that for the next 20 years. So some of it is just people just can't accept it. They want somebody to blame. And some people have agendas, but a lot of times they just want somebody to blame. And instead of their own child, it's like, you hate your child being stupid and doing something stupid, but sometimes your child does something stupid. We all have done something stupid, and we're like, glad we're still here, thinking, my God, I was that close to getting killed myself, because I did something stupid, and when we were teenagers or college students, we just never told our parents all the stupid things we did. But, unfortunately, some parents one day get that phone call that their child, sorry, they were drinking and they fell in a river or whatever. They're drinking and they crashed the car, whatever. Or they got depressed. So, but parents, they don't. It seems so wasteful is what I think it is. You just can't believe all this work you did to raise your kid. And they were probably maybe a really great kid in your mind, they're a great kid and they had their whole life ahead of them. And then this one stupid moment in time, and you want to erase that stupid moment in time. And one way to do it, I guess, is to blame somebody else. So it's very sad. We're all survivors of stupid. I think that is absolutely true. Absolutely true. That this is correct. There was no proof of that either. Yeah. They're just. But I'm not going to get into that whole case. You're going to have to go check it out if you're interested in the actual details of it, because it's a fascinating case. I mean, but I didn't find for homicide, and I think that's why the police didn't either. So, yeah. Did I want to talk about this? Who is that? Okay, I've got to figure out who this. Oh, I was asked to talk about this, so I will. I don't know if anybody in Australia is here or awake, because it's not. It's like really like 6 o'clock in the morning in Australia, or is it? Yeah, it's Melbourne. Okay, Melbourne. Okay, so this creep. This is Joshua Brown, and the question was asked to me why he did what he did, and this was really quite frightening. I mean, what he did. This guy is a childcare worker alleged to have sexually abused 8 infants, may have harmed another 1,200 children by contaminating the food with bodily fluids. Now, they didn't say what the bodily fluids were. I could make a guess, but contaminated them with the bodily fluids. And he was charged with 70 offenses, including penetration of a child, so child abuse material, contaminating goods to cause alarm or anxiety. That's not why he did that. I don't believe that. So the question was really, why did he contaminate these things? And in my opinion, it's what this is very similar to a peeping Tom issue. Peeping Tom starts out by invading the privacy of another human being by peeping in their window. It's a pre-rape or pre-sexual assault type of behavior. They're not ready to actually do the assault yet, but they're peeping in the window at whether the person's naked or not, they're just watching them. And that is exciting to them because they're invading their territory and doing something which is illegal. And a lot of times peeping Tomism gets downplayed by the police, and they always just, he says, he's just a peeper. Yeah. And that leads to something much more dangerous, because they're just testing their own abilities and getting closer and closer. Then another thing may happen where they go into the house and they steal underwear, or the one guy used to take bubble gum out of his mouth and stick it in the woman's underwear. So one way, the woman comes home and she can't figure out what happened to her underwear. She looks in the dryer because that's where things should disappear, but it's not there either. She's like, what the heck? She thinks she was losing her mind, but there's some guy at home with her underwear. And he knows he's invaded her territory. Now he's gotten close to her body with the underwear. The guy who puts the bubble gum in there, he gets a big cheap thrill out of when she opens up a drawer and she takes out her underwear. She finds bubble gum in the crotch, and it grosses her out. And she's like, oh my God. And now he's really amused by the fact that now she has recognized that somebody has been there and maybe even touched the thing that he left there. There's other guys there was a guy who used to go to, there's guys who will just brush up against you. That's another form of it. frauderism type thing. Just brush up against a woman in a public place, or just let their hand slide past her butt while she's on a metro. Again, this is now an actual assault, although it's rarely, nobody usually gets arrested for it because they disappear. But that's another one. Another version would be, there was a guy who was going to a clothing store, and he'd go into the women's section. He'd hide in the clothes, and while the mother was there with her. Or sometimes, it was in the children's section. Actually, you go in the children's section. She'd be there with her little toddler, holding, looking at the clothes, and he would squirt oil on the back of her butt. So you know what that represented. So that again is one more thing. And then of course exposing yourself would be another one. So my belief is that if he contaminated the food that children did, that's exactly what he was doing. Was actually accessing the children sexually in his own mind through him to the food to them. You can just use your own imaginations on that. Disgusting. It's disgusting and horrible. Now, it does appear that he has committed an actual sexual assault on a child, which is horrific. And the real question is this guy ever going to see the light of day again? And he should not ever, ever, ever. He has been around so many children. They also found child abuse material, and he's 26 years old, child abuse material at his home. And they're trying to identify people, not people, but all the little children. He's worked for 20 childcare centers since 2017 around the Melbourne area. He also tested positive for sexually transmitted disease. Wow. And he's going to be appearing in court on September 15th. Another guy was also Michael Wilson was also arrested and charged with a sexual assault on a teenage boy. But he did not supposedly work in any childcare places, but the pair apparently knew each other. But I will say this, in my opinion, he should never be out of prison. He should get a life sentence. If he doesn't get a life sentence, it's appalling, because he sexually assaulted an infant and did all these other crimes as well. He never should be out ever, ever again. But a lot of times they get out and then they go, well, you can't be within 20 feet of, that kind of crap. And how are you going to prevent that? How I don't know if you're from Australia, put the information of what kind of sentence you think they're going to get for that. Yeah. Paraphilias. Well, paraphilias, anybody can have paraphilias. They're not necessarily criminal. But when you're invading somebody else's territory, that's more than a paraphilia. That's an issue. That's an issue, because it's not just about them. If they want to, wear leather or have some version of something. The guy that I was the guy that I was asked to go online with, who was a guy who liked to drown young men, and I went online as a 15-year-old male, and he drowned me. I don't know how many times online, in fantasy. That's a paraphilia. Now, the problem was he did take that into real life. Not necessarily with underage, but he definitely did take it into real life. And a couple of the people were not so it wasn't it wasn't consensual what he did. And also the dead guy that he messed with in a nursing home definitely didn't give consent. So he was a wonderful fellow. Oh yeah. So yeah, I agree with you, Carissa. Mandating distance apart crap doesn't work, because do you say, well, we're just hope you're going to be a good boy? You can't do that, and then they go do that. And you have to A, catch them, and B, even if you do catch them, it may be too late. And, that's the last thing you want. So, Brutus, wasn't he the foot guy, right? Yeah. So, you're allowed to have paraphilias. as long as your paraphilias don't infringe on another person non-consensually. So that's the old issue. Let's see. What the heck is that? Oh, I might do a video on this particular case. This is I forgot her name. Lois Reiss, can't remember. She killed her husband, and then she killed another woman and stole her identity. And it's actually a show right now on. Here it is. It's I'm Not a Monster. It's called. It's on Max right at the moment. I think that's Discovery Max. And I'm watching it and I'm finding it interesting. I'm not sure I'm doing this for Sunday. I may or may not, depending on if there's enough to do a full show on. If there isn't, I may just do a separate video during the week. But so far, it is interesting to me. So it's not a question if she did it. It's not who done it. It's she done did it. But why and how and what in the heck? Because it was, because she was a good portion of her life was crime free and was a married woman, had 3 kids, ran a daycare and all this kind of stuff, and people supposedly liked her, and then this happened. So it's an interesting story. And her son says, but she was a nice lady. Is this the one? Wait a minute. Oh, this fugitive grandma Lois Reiss is a good lady with demons. Son says, a good lady with demons. Okay. So I'm looking. I'm learning about it. Oh, I didn't do the Lucy Letby thing. Okay, the Lucy Letby thing. Okay, Lucy Letby. I'm not quite sure what to say about this at the moment, except that there have been. I'm thinking of how it might be being used. This is not about Lucy Letby per se, but it says here. Lucy Letby Hospital, more charges that could come at Lucy Letby Hospital after trio arrested for gross negligence manslaughter. So these are apparently administrators. Let me read it. There could be more charges over the baby deaths and collapses at the hospital where Lucy Letby worked. And I don't know if the charges have anything to actually do with the baby's death. Okay. Police have submitted a, quote, full file of evidence to prosecutors to consider further charges in relation to the deaths and non-fatal. Okay, I'm a little confused. This is so poorly written, I don't understand what they're saying. I don't know if they're having more charges against Lucy Letby or more charges against other people. It's just poorly written. The Crown Prosecution Service said it has received a file from the Cheshire Police asking it to consider further allegations in relation to incidents at the Countess of Chester Hospital and Liverpool Women's Hospital. Both Cheshire Police and the CPS said they would not confirm the identity of any suspect or suspects. They're investigating other incidents at where she was trained at this other hospital. And then it says this. Okay, here's where the information is not exactly useful, but it's information. Yesterday, Tuesday, which was a couple of days ago, the force shared the news that 3 former senior managers at the Countess of Chester Hospital had been arrested on suspicion of gross negligence manslaughter. Following the arrest, Detective Superintendent Paul Hughes said, in October 2023, following the lengthy trial and subsequent conviction of Lucy Letby, Cheshire Constable, I can't pronounce it today, Constabulary, launched an investigation into corporate manslaughter at the Countess of Chester Hospital. This focuses on senior leadership and their decision-making to determine whether any criminality has taken place concerning the response to the increased level of fatalities. Okay, so now this gets interesting. Now, when this came out, there was an immediate jump to the concept that this was going to prove Lucy Letby was innocent. In other words, there was such gross negligence that she just got blamed for the gross negligence that the hospital provided. But I don't think it's exactly saying that here. It seems like they're saying concerning the response to the increased level of fatalities. In other words, if you're got a neonatal unit and babies keep dying and upper management doesn't do anything about the dying babies, and it even allows, let's say, for example, sometimes they'll let somebody go, and they'll go to another hospital, and the fatalities will continue over there. And if you do that, aren't you, as an administrator, responsible for the fact you did not do anything about the fatalities at your hospital and didn't tell the other hospital that this person you suspected was killing babies? So it can be not that the hospital is responsible for the fatalities, but the hospital is responsible for not properly handling the fatality issue as it started rising and doing anything about it. In March 2025, the scope of the investigation widened to also include gross negligence manslaughter. This is a separate offense to corporate manslaughter and focuses on the grossly negligent action or inaction of individuals. So it could be the inaction that is the problem. It is important to note that this does not impact the convictions of Lucy Letby for multiple offenses of murder and attempted murder. So right now, what it seems like is that it is not letting her off the hook, in spite of all those scientists who rolled in to say that she didn't do anything. So far, it stands, and I believe she is guilty of those those babies that died. But was there gross negligence and inaction on the part of the hospital? That may well be true. That's a whole nother matter. So it's a bad matter, because if they have been they done their jobs properly and protected those children, maybe Lucy Letby wouldn't have knocked off those babies. So, but I think whether you think she's guilty or not, I don't think this particular these arrests are proof that she didn't do it, is what I'm pointing out. So, this is always an interesting thing. Wonder if the folks saying she's not guilty will be happy with her looking after their babies. Well, again, it's a different, what you believe and what is evidence is always two different things. So somebody might think there wasn't enough evidence to convict her, but they're never going to let her near their kids, because they actually believe she could be guilty. So those are two different things. But but some of them. But some of them would do. Some people actually believe she's 100% innocent, and not just a failure to provide enough evidence. They don't think that she should have been found guilty, but they absolutely think she's innocent. Would they let her near their kids? Well, I've always found that kind of an interesting concept. It's like you think that the Innocence Project gets this guy out of prison, who was in there for murder. Do you want him living in your house? Do you want him marrying your daughter? Same type of thing. You may think that he's innocent, but maybe you got that little, that shadow of a doubt in the courtroom. Maybe you got that shadow of a doubt, then you're not going to let him in your house. Let's see. Stephanie Crowe. Well, I've got to see what it's about. Somebody asked me about Stephanie Crowe. Let me find Stephanie Crowe to see if I remember what the case was about. Where are you? Oh, let me talk about this one while I got this one. This one is this is a kind of just a bizarre case. There's this woman. Where is she? Oh, here she is. Is this her? No, that's Noah. Sorry, Noah. Oh, here she is. Okay. There she is. Okay. Her name is Hannah Freeman. And she was a teacher, and she was charged with stalking her boyfriend. And she really got a very light little tap on the hand there, maybe because she was a daughter of the North Ridgeville's police chief, but not saying that's true. But anyway, just they dropped the felony charges against her. Now, again, a lot of times I think is it because there wasn't enough evidence, which, and we're maybe talking about that line again, that gray line, which it's a tough one. Or was it because she's a female and, they got to give them a little break. Cuyahoga, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Cuyahoga County prosecutors, as in Ohio, dropped felony charges against a teacher accused of stalking her former boyfriend. Hannah Freeman, 27, the daughter of North Ridgeville's police chief, Michael Freeman, was indicted on 5 felony counts in November, including menacing by stalking, identity fraud, and theft of drugs. Now, that's a lot of felony charges. And what? None of them are, okay, no. Are you doing this? Oh, for God's sake. Again, it's funny because I read the story before, and now now you have to be a subscriber. Sometimes you can read it once and then they block you after that. Let me find another version of this. Unbelievable. So frustrating. Let's see. Let me see if it's also on my phone. Maybe it's still on my phone. They haven't wiped it out yet. Oh, I'm in the wrong place. Hold on a second. Okay, let's see if I have it here. Okay. Nope, I wiped it out. Okay, I'm going to find another one. Let's see if this one will be here. Okay, so what did she do? She was accused of last year of stalking a man, and she denied the allegations, saying he lied to the police. Hannah Freeman, 27, was arrested on November 7th, charged with all these things I just said. They set her bond at $5,000 and in order to enroll in a court-supervised release program. She's pleaded not guilty. Her trial, previously set to begin next week, has now been rescheduled to June 30th, which now is not happening. According to police report, her former boyfriend told the officer she stole 2 backpacks containing laptops, medications, and his wallet in early November. The former boyfriend also told police that Freeman had gone to his job and home unannounced, according to the police report. There was an 85-page filing and numerous screenshots of text messages. She said she wasn't guilty of the charges because she was in an intimate relationship with a boyfriend at the time. He claims not. So in other words, she said, because we're in a relationship, all the things I did is no biggie. She said they involved sharing access to each other's bank accounts, residences, cars, and emails. Wow, that's a lot. The day before she was arrested, Freeman said she and the victim had planned to spend the night together. That's what she says. Okay. According to the filings, though, Freeman's accuser and then fiance moved out of their shared residence in May. Despite breaking off the engagement, Freeman said they decided to continue working on their relationship. She said the victim invited her to follow him to his new apartment on November 6th, the day before she was arrested. As they were driving, the victim sent her a text message threatening to call the police. The filing says she was confused by the message, so she drove to his apartment to have a conversation. I did hit his window because he would not have a conversation. I drove away. I was then upset and went back, parked my car in the parking lot next to his apartment and walked back to his car. I took his book bags, walked back to my car. Taking the book bags was not for monetary value. It was so that he had to have a final conversation with me to explain what was happening because he told me that we were in a relationship. Now, I've heard this thing where they want a final conversation. This is guys use this with women a lot, and then they choke them to death because they'll say, I know we've broken up, but can we meet just one more time? I just want you to explain to me what the problem is. And then the woman, who should not meet him one more time, especially not in a lonely place, goes to that place, and then he that's the last conversation they have. He makes sure of it. Then she says she was attempting to return the victim's laptop the next day in the parking lot of the middle school when they arrested her. So now she's claiming she's not stalking him at the school. She was just trying to return these things she stole. So page just went down. Then it says here, unfortunately, I say the page I wanted completely vanished on me. But let's see if I can find one more, because apparently she did stalk the crap out of him. I don't know why they dropped the charges. I want to say she changed her. Wait a minute. Let's see if I. Let's see if they'll let me in on this one. Or is this also? Yeah, I'm being screwed by whatever's happening in Ohio here. She'll be sentenced in July after pleading to 3 misdemeanor counts. So they dropped the felony counts and went to misdemeanor counts. And so she's just going to get, what are her misdemeanor? Obstructing official business, possessing criminal tools. Wow. So the felony count, they've thrown out the major felony counts. And she took a plea.
The North Ridgeville teacher accused of stalking her ex-boyfriend pleaded guilty.
Wait, that thing popped up. I'm trying to see the other part of what. Okay, she. In addition, the victim told police that his ex-girlfriend would frequent his place of work, as well as his residence, causing stress and mental anguish. Apparently, she had done this for like. They did track her vehicle, and she showed up 33 times at his place in the last 30 days. She showed up 33 times at his place of work on 19 different days. I'm going to say she was harassing him. But she's a teacher. I think she's no longer teaching because, yeah. So she's getting off very lightly. But if it had been a guy, I think that the charges wouldn't have been dropped. So the felony charges wouldn't have been dropped. So. Yes, sounds like a very healthy relationship. Hi, Taylor. Yeah, not so much. Oh my God. Oh, that's near you, Taylor. Okay. He moved, sold his house in Massachusetts. Oh Lord, I tell you. But it's interesting to me when someone say sometimes females really do get a break, and people don't recognize that fact because, again, do we believe all females, or do we get and do we not believe males enough? Do we just, and, a lot of guys are, there's a whole thing, where there's guys who do a lot of things that they need to be charged and convicted for. But on the other hand, letting women off the hook for doing the same things is questionable. It's like, why is that? I was going to talk about her. I think it'll be the last thing I talk about. Who is this? I think this is Stephanie. I'm not sure I was going to talk about this. Let me figure out if I'm going to or not. Where is it? I have her picture up here, but maybe I'm planning to do that in the future. Just ignore that for now. I think, I think I may be doing something about her in another video, I think, because I can't find it here. So I must have accidentally put her up here. Okay, so I will do one last thing before I go, because I've wanted to do this for the longest time and I keep moving it, but it just cracks me up. All right, ready? This is from Your Tango, which is about the stupidest site on the internet. Can't stand it, think it's dumb. Research says you can tell if a woman is a psychopath just by looking at her face. Female psychopaths may be more common than previously believed. Well, I agree with that. While not an official diagnosis, psychopath describes someone callous, unemotional, morally depraved. They're hard to spot, especially considering approximately 29% of the general population exhibits one or more psychopathic traits, such as antisocial behavior, impulsivity, superficial charm, and a lack of empathy. Okay, that's a stupid statement right there. So 1 out of 3 people exhibits, somebody's impulsive, that has nothing to do with them being a psychopath. I mean, yes, is that one of the things that is a trait of a psychopath? Yes, but just because you have one thing, it's meaningless. I mean, you have to have them all. Okay, yet, according to a recent study published in the Archives of Sexual Behavior, simply looking at a woman's face may reveal she is a psychopath. So all you women who are left, you're on here right now. Is this going to prove you're a psychopath or me? Okay. Study found that the amount of makeup a woman wears, or rather doesn't wear, may reveal if she is a psychopath. The researchers surveyed 1,410, they made sure they had 10 extras, Brazilian women about their makeup usage habits and instructed them to complete online surveys that measured their dark triad traits: narcissism, Machiavellism, and psychopathy. Okay, results revealed makeup usage. What do you think of makeup usage? Anybody got an idea on that? Makeup usage. You love that trash site? Caitlin says you love that trash. No, go away from there. It's the stupidest site ever. Makeup usage. Do you think it's positively or negatively associated with narcissism, extroversion? And, okay, wait a minute. Okay, do you think wearing makeup means you're a psychopath or means you're not a psychopath? What do you think? Planet Steel says, makeup, you got to be kidding me. I just discovered the joy of false eyelashes. Am I super psycho? Don't work anymore, so I don't wear it. You think it's a positive association? People wearing more makeup are more likely to be psychopathic? You're saying negatively? You're saying that's just stupid. I really know. Oh my God. Okay, so I'll tell you what it supposedly is, because it's dumb as crap. Okay, so makeup usage was positively associated with narcissism and extroversion, and negatively with psychopathy. So women who regularly wore lots of makeup scored high on the narcissism scale, but women who don't wear a lot of makeup score high on the psychopathy scale. What? Okay, Harpa, why doesn't this make any sense? Tell me, because you've been coming to my show for a long time. Who interpreted the results? Some idiot. But anyway, tell me why this is a problem. Rainey says, I knew it, I'm a psychopath. Makes no flipping sense. What's the big problem in this whole thing? Let's read it again. If you wear a lot of makeup, you're narcissistic. But if you don't wear a lot of makeup, you're psychopathic. Well, you've been both. You've been both a narcissist and a psychopath. Well, that is another interesting thing, because different points in our lives, we might wear more or less makeup. That's true. Thank you, Liberty. Woo. Narcissist equals psychopath. Not exactly, but a psychopath is a narcissist, but a narcissist is not necessarily a psychopath. If you're a psychopath, you have to be narcissistic. If you're narcissistic, you may not be a psychopath. So, yeah. So they're saying that if you wear makeup, you're a narcissist. If you don't wear makeup, you're a psychopath. But narcissism is included in psychopathy. How does that make any damn sense? That's the stupidest thing ever. So, and then it says here, in all social situations discussed, at home, on a first date, in a business meeting, and at the gym, women who scored highly on the psychopathy scale were less likely to put on lipstick, eyeliner, and blush. So if you don't put on makeup to go to the gym or at home, I'm sorry, I don't know how many of you do. I know that. I'm back in the old, Dick Van Dyke days. I know women got up in the morning and after they took their shower and they put their makeup on so that if anybody knocked on the door, they would be, pretty. I've never put on makeup to be around the house. I don't think ever in my flipping life have I ever put on makeup in the house. Never. And if I go out for shopping, ice cream and stuff, I don't bother with it either. I'm too lazy. But there were days, yeah, in the house. Okay. Now I do know some women do put on the makeup to go to the gym because they put on the cute little outfit too. So that makes them narcissistic, but not a psychopath. So, well, what's a sex thing? Yeah, it's just, Let's see who funded it. It was the Archives of Sexual Behavior. It's a recent study published by, let me go over there. The National Library of Medicine? Holy Godzilla. Are we kidding? What the? Okay, this is an abstract. Makeup usage in women is positively associated with narcissism and extroversion, but negatively to psychopathy. That's where they got it from. And we should not be funding these kind of idiots. We should not. This is the stupidest thing ever. It says here, appearance. This is from the actual abstract. Maybe we can learn something. Appearance modification practices are ubiquitous, serving to enhance physical attractiveness and accrue social advantages, including increased desirability as a potential mate. Facial cosmetics are frequently used for appearance modification, yet individual differences in makeup usage remain under study. While makeup usage in women has been linked to traits like narcissism and extroversion, the broader association with the dark triad traits and how personality influences makeup application across diverse social contexts were less explored. So this is what they explored. So if you use a lot of makeup, you score higher on the narcissism and agreeableness. Average users displayed lower psychopathy, and lesser users reported lower narcissism and higher psychopathy. So I guess you want to use moderate amount of makeup. That way you're not too narcissistic nor too psychopathic. Oh my God. That's just painful. Yeah, it is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, oh my God. I mean, and somebody paid for this. Who got money for this crap? And then this dark triad crap. I don't even know what that is. Good God. And how narcissism isn't part of psychopathy. I'm totally boggled by that one. So agreeableness. Oh yeah, agreeableness. So what is it? Let's see. Wait a minute. But what does agreeableness even mean? Are you agreeable to things you shouldn't be agreeable to, or are you just a nice person? Even the word isn't properly defined. It's so stupid. So anyway, that was just a dumb thing I've been wanting to do for a while, because I just like, I personally, Your Tango, I think, is one of the dumbest websites ever. And the people who write the articles on there don't know what they're talking about. Overall, they have no clue about anything. I'm pretty sure I would say they Google, but maybe they just do. Maybe they just go to Grok now and just get answers and chuck them up there. So Grok would be smarter than the people, though, that write for Your Tango. So, so very, very weird. Very weird. Anyway, that's going to be it for today. And I'm not sure if we're going to do Lois for Sunday or something else, because I do have that long list, and I'm not sure. But it's the 4th of July tomorrow. It all depends on whether I'm busy on the 4th of July or I'm just going to be doing research all 4th of July and listening to the fireworks that are set off near my home and not actually, participating. So the comments here are great. So if you're watching the show, you want to check out the comments. These are some of them are really great. Don't open the archives, folks. What happens then? I open the archives. I'm okay. Oh my gosh. Oh, one thing before I go. I got this. The summons. Yes, I got jury duty. One more time, they're trying for me. But now I can say I'm going to be over 70. Leave me the hell alone. Yes. Stop bothering me, because they're not going to let me be on a jury anyway, and I don't want to be on one. So thanks, Tetrafin. Happy 4th of July. Yes, to all of us. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's just the American people, though. What is? Throw it away. Wait a minute. What? Throw what away? I got to see what that is. I can't see what it is. Throw what away? what you're going to do when they come for me. They can't, because I'll be over 70 and they can't make me go. And if I do go, I'm just going to get thrown out. I mean, they're never going to allow me on a jury. This is never going to happen. So it's just a waste of a day to me. I'm never going to get stuck on jury duty, but it's, yeah, but it's still annoying. I just don't want to even go there. So, so anyway, thank you guys for being here. It's been a pleasure, and happy 4th of July to the Americans in the group, and the rest of you just have a happy July 4th, you know, because you have, what's that old joke? How much, what is it? Oh shoot, I forgot it. Oh, the joke is one of these things where they ask you all these questions. People get them all wrong. And it's like, does England have a 4th of July? And people go, well, of course not. And then they go, yes, it do. They have a 1st of July, a 2nd of July, a 3rd of July, 4th of July. I learned that when I was a child. So still very useful. See you later, guys.